Hello and welcome back to this video. Now, in our last lesson, we learned about completing the square. And in this lesson, we're going to learn the other way you can solve a quadratic equation, and that is through the quadratic formula. Okay, so if we have a quadratic equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, which is equal to 0, then we can use the quadratic formula to work out the solutions. So what is the quadratic formula? Well, the quadratic formula is this. It would be minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that is all over 2a. So what you do is when you have an equation, you just need to look at your coefficients of your x squared, your x, and then your constant. And then depending on what they are, you can just put that into the equation and it will give you your solutions. Okay? So in our last lesson, we looked at the quadratic equation x squared minus 6x plus 1 is equal to 0. And we worked out by completing the square. So now we're going to work it out using the quadratic formula. So first things first, we need to work out what are our a, b, and c values. So if we look at x squared, well, x squared, we could essentially write that as 1x squared. So we know that a must be 1. With b, we have minus 6 here. So we know that b is minus 6. And for c, it would just simply be 1. So we have c as 1. And then we can just put that in now to the quadratic formula. So we have minus 6, okay, because b is a minus 6, plus or minus the square root of minus 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1. And that is equal to 2 times 1, okay? So therefore we'd get a negative times a negative 6 is a positive 6, plus or minus 6 squared, that is 36, minus 4 times 1 would give us a minus 4, and that would be over 2 times 1, which is 2. So if we keep going down, therefore we'd have a 6 here, plus or minus the square root of 32, and that is over 2, okay? Now next we can simplify down this square root of 32. So if you've done surds before, you know that that would simplify down to 4 root 2, okay? And then that is over 2. And then now what we can do is we can take out a factor of 2 from the top, because both 6 and 4, they go into 2. So we'd have 2, and then that would be 3 plus or minus of 2 root 2, okay? And that would be divided by 2 if I just scroll up here. And then we can cancel out now. And that will leave us with 3 plus or minus 2 root 2, okay? So as you can see, it's very simple using the quadratic formula. Once you know what your a, b, and c values are, you can just put them straight into the equation. Okay, so now we're going to look at this one here. We're going to look at x squared plus 5x minus 12. So again, we need to just look at our values and see what our a, b, and c values are. So again, we have an x squared, so which means that a would just be 1. Our b value is a 5, so we have b as 5. And our c value is 8 minus 12, okay? And then again, we just use the quadratic formula and to help us solve it. So we have a minus 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 5 squared, minus 4 times 1 times c, which is minus 12, okay? And that is, again, over 2 times 1. So, if we simplify this down now, we have a minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 25. That is a minus 4 times a 1, which is minus 4, times a minus 12, which is 48. And that is divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay? So now if we simplify this down a bit more, we get a minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 73. And that is just divided by 2. And there is nothing else we can do with this. We cannot simplify this down even more. So we can just leave it like this. So the answer is, there's two roots. It is minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 2. And it depends what they want in the question. Maybe they want you to give the answer to a certain amount of significant figures. So by all means, you can just put this into your calculator and and it will work it out for you. Okay, so now we'll look at our last question of today. And now we have 2x squared minus 10x plus 8 is equal to 0. Now, while you are able to solve this without the quadratic formula or even without completing the square, I'm going to show you this by using the quadratic formula. So if you don't know how to solve this by using other methods, you can always still use the quadratic formula, and maybe it takes you a bit longer, but you'll still get the same answer. So we have 2x squared minus 10x plus 8, and again, we do the same thing. We need to work out what our a, b, and c values are. So again, we look at our x squared. Our x squared, it's a 2. So we know that our a value is going to be a 2. Our b value is a minus 10 here. So we know that our b value is going to be a minus 10. And our c value, our c value here is an 8. So we know that our c value is going to be an 8. And then we just plug all that into our formula. So if we do that, then we get a minus b, so a minus 10, plus or minus the square root of minus 10 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8, and that is divided by 2 times a, which is 2. So we get a positive 10 plus or minus the square root of minus 10 squared is 100, and that is minus 2 times minus 4 times 2, which is a minus 8, and then a minus 8 times an 8 is a minus 64. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So then if we have our equals, let me just bring this up. So now we have 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 minus 64 is 36. And that is over 4. And then we get 10 plus or minus the square root of 36 is just 6. And that is divided by 4. And then let's do it down below here. So then, therefore, we have two outcomes. We either have 10 plus or minus 6 divided by 4. So at this stage, you can break it up. So we have two solutions. We have 10 plus 6 over 4. And that gives us 4. Or we have 10, a different color. Or we have 10 minus 6 over 4, which gives us 1. So we have two solutions here. We worked out both our solutions. We have that x would have to be 1 or 4. Okay? So again, this question's a very nice one. The answer is very nice. So we have loads of methods we could have used to work it out. But if you don't know any of those other methods, and they have not told you that you have to use a specific method, then by all means, go use the quadratic formula. It is very simple, and it will still give you the right answer. Maybe it's a lot bit more workings out, but you'll still get the right answer. And yeah, so that will be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video on the quadratic formula, and I will see you on the next.